it's just a huge honor for me today to be podcast interviewing Dr. Rowe, all the way from Chicago, Illinois. He is the founder of Chicago Smile Group, which is just crushing it. This young lad graduated only in 2008, so he hasn't even been out of school 10 years. He's already got 12 offices, 220 employees, 45 dentists, 35 hygienists. He's a dentist and entrepreneur. His vision is to build a best-in-class dental support organization in the Chicago area, offering dentists and dental specialists the opportunity to focus on the clinical aspects of dentistry, providing exceptional care for every patient. In 2008, Dr. Rowe bought his first practice in the south suburbs of Chicago with 3 employees and a 650 square foot, and he has since developed Chicago Smile Group into a growing network of 12 multi-specialty dental practices, all dedicated to advancing dental health care in the greater Chicago area. Good to have you on the show, buddy.
Hey, Dr. Farran, my pleasure. Long-time reader and then listener, so to be on this side is truly an honor.
You know, it reminds me of the funniest joke. You know, you say on there that you have where it is offering dentist and dental specialists. It's so funny because in my 30 years, I've seen it a gazillion times where someone will say to like an orthodontist, "Oh, are you a dentist?" No, I'm an orthodontist. Are you a dentist? No, I'm an endodontist. I only met one oral surgeon who ever I saw live. Someone said, "Are you a dentist?" And he just said yes. And that was I climbed Mount Kilimanjaro with 4 dentists, and one of them was an oral surgeon from Seattle. And I stopped him. I said, "Dude, you're the only oral surgeon that admitted that you were a dentist." So I think that's just funny.
Yeah, I mean, that's right. We try and acknowledge the dentist and the dental specialist. They like it better that way, huh?
Yeah, I get they do. I think the funny especially is pediatric dentists. Well, what do you specialize in? Oh, just smaller sapiens. We don't do the big sapiens. We just do small sapiens around 50 pounds. So we're a specialty.
Yeah.
Hey,
exactly right.
So, you know, this is Dentistry Uncensored, so let's just get frank. When I got out of school 30 years ago, the big scary monster was capitation, and it was going to ruin dentistry, dental HMOs, and then it was OSHA, and then 10 years later, then it was HIPAA. You know, there's always some scary thing that's going to, you know, ruin our lives. And right now, probably the scariest word on Dental Town is corporate dentistry. The evil monster of corporate dentistry. And I don't think it's evil because, number one, who hires most of the graduates when they come out of school? Not all the 50, 60-year-old dentists who have dental offices closed Friday, Saturday, and Sunday while their patients sit home in pain. And it's like, okay, well, you didn't hire the 6,000 kids out of school. You even look at their ads. When they advertise for an associate, they say must have 5 years experience. So corporate is doing an A+ in giving our new sovereign professional dentist colleagues a job. And at the other end, they offer liquidity because you can sell a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house in Phoenix in a day or a week or a month for $175. But if you're sitting on $1 million home that's 6 bedrooms, that thing may be illiquid for a year. And all my friends who had offices over 2 million, like 2, 3, 4 million, the only person that would offer them liquidity was Heartland. Heartland was the only big enough beast to go in and buy these practices. So I want to ask you, my point question is, you know, what do you think the consolidation trends are and the benefits of group dentistry? What was going on in your journey where you thought this is a good idea for dentistry?
Yeah. So I ended up, in 2008, after I graduated dental school, I acquired my first dental office in the south suburbs of Chicago, and then it was 650 square feet and 2 operatories, and I grew it to 2 dentists and then a specialist, and I started to see the value in multi-doctor, multi-specialty dental office within one physical 4 walls. So I had that model, and it, you know, in 2008, kind of when there was a recession in the economy, we were growing quite a bit, and as we were growing, I looked at my patients and the trend in dentistry just in my practice, and I wanted to keep growing, and so I acquired a second dental office in 2013 and a third in 2014, and you know, we were at 7 dentists and dental specialists, and then we had I was still working. I talk a lot about I was working in the business and on the business, and so I was working 5 days a week as a dentist, and then using my MBA, and I was doing marketing and finance and everything else at night. And I knew that, I recognized through my own lesson, that a human being wasn't scalable, but I recognized that if I had the right processes and I was surrounded by the right people, I could grow this business into something and affect change in thousands of patients' lives on a weekly basis. So in 2015, I ended up I partnered with a local private equity fund, and we have that had shared my vision in best in class healthcare and wanting to grow this to something that we could all be proud of.
Man, that is amazing. So I called the, being patient-centered instead of being dentist-centered. And when you go to a dentist, they don't want to be referred out to 9 different specialties. So you saw the vision of rotating the specialties through your office instead of rotating the patients around Chicago.
Exactly. And you're absolutely right. I talk a lot about the money value of time, and patients have a growing money value of time, and they don't want to they don't want to go anywhere else. They want to stay at your practice. How many times do dentists hear, well, the patient's horizontal in the chair, hey doc, can't you just do that? Do you have to refer me somewhere else? And so I saw the possibilities of it being a patient-centered group versus a doctor-centered group. And I didn't want it to be. I wanted to build around the patient versus building around a doctor's schedule.
Yeah, and you know what's weird? The human mind is so bizarre. Like you're meeting a dentist, you're talking to him, and he's the most dentist-centered person you've ever met. And you ask him, "Are you dentist-centered or patient-centered?" And he says, "Oh, we're very patient-centered." I'm go, "Okay, your hours are Monday through Thursday, 8 to 5. What are all your patients doing that time? Working. They try to call you on their way to work, and you get voicemail. And when does your staff decide to take a lunch? The only time they could call on their lunch hour, and you're closed 12 to 1. And but they truly believe. So, are you purchasing these 12 offs? Of those 12, how many were mergers and acquisition versus de novo startup from scratch?
Yeah, they've all been acquisitions. We look to partner with dental offices that have been long-standing parts of the community, their own respective community in the Chicagoland area. So we our youngest office is 18 has been in their community for 18 years, and our oldest office is about 49 years old.
Wow. Now, that's not old. I'm 54. A 49-year-old office is very young. Very young.
That's
I,
true.
I think you're not old till 55, so I have another month before I reach oldness. So, you know, the hardest thing of any corporation is HR. I mean, all your problems are either with your own people, getting them on the same team, or your customers. I mean, it's never the electric bill. It's never figuring out how the washing machine works. It's always the people. How do you? The biggest joke in the world is that you couldn't get 45 dentists to agree that today's Friday. How do you keep 45 dentists on the same page?
It's a great question. So we know that human beings themselves as dentists, one of the principles of the ADA is autonomy. So we know that dentists themselves are autonomous, but I can't get dentists to all be at the 50-yard line, but I could get them to be between the 40s and kind of calibrate them and look at their emphasis on comprehensive care, and be able to take their processes and hopefully make them a little bit better. But for us at Chicagoland Smile Group, we're looking to partner with like-minded dentists that believe in comprehensive care, that believe in multi-doctor, multi-specialty practice, and truly do want to keep their patient and put their patient first.
So of those 12 locations, so all of those are two dentists or more?
Yes, they are.
Well,
at least two dentists.
is there like a blueprint that you aim for? I mean, is your ideal like two dentists, eight offices, or something like that, or is it just acquisition by acquisition, all different?
You know, we like to think that we like to think that we have a box that we want to stay in of two dentists and 8 or 10 operatories. But what we find is to your point, every acquisition is different. So it's on an acquisition by acquisition basis. We have an office right now that's 28 operatories and 12,000 square feet. So it kind of runs the gamut per se.
And are you branding them all? Are they all named Chicagoland Smile Group? Are you branding that name? Like Heartland, when they do a merger and acquisition, they never change the name. Aspen, every one of their stores is Aspen. So what's your thoughts on the name brand?
We actually we leave the name as it's been in the community for, you know, sometimes upwards of 40 years. So we look at the local office as still being Oak Park Dental Group or Olympia Fields Dental Associates, that it's been in the community for decades. So we don't change any of the names because to patients it's still, you know, Manus Dental or Oak Park Dental. So we keep the names the same.
Well, that's what Kroger grocery store does. I mean, Kroger, you know, it's Walmart, and then Kroger's number two. Then I think Costco's three. Then Amazon's four. But you know, they leave the names. They own Cala Foods, City Markets, Cops, Dillon's, Foods Co., Fred Meyer's, Fry's. That's what they have in Arizona. I grew up in Kansas with Dillon's, King Shoppers, Mariana's Fresh Market, Metro Market, Pick and Save. So you're doing the Kroger Foods. Um,
Exactly right. And then, you know, for out of those in Chicago, we have Mariano's. So if you would change the name of my Mariano's that I walk to on a weekly basis to Kroger Foods, I would think that I'm going somewhere different.
yeah,
But again,
and I think it's funny how you know, when Amazon bought Whole Foods last month, I mean, all those stocks lost, you know, 15% of their value that day. And I
yeah,
thought to myself, do you really think Amazon's going to replace all the grocery stores? I mean, really?
right.
I mean, sometimes you go to the grocery store, you don't even know what you're hungry for. You're just going to go down there and pick something up. And the CEO from Kroger, I mean, he was almost laughing during the press conference. He's like, and also little things like so many people love the points off their gas. So if they go buy a bunch of groceries, they can go get gas just a few cents over the cost of gas. And he's like, man, we sell. But of course, then the response from the analyst was like, yeah, well, Tesla's going to get rid of their gas card too.
Well, yeah, on the grocery store front, you know, I'd love, to your point, I'd love to I'd love to have an Amazon drone deliver milk directly to my house on my balcony. But when I go to the grocery store, I end up buying 10 other things outside of milk.
Yeah, I just keep having nightmares of that drone landing on your front porch delivering milk, and then your dog goes and attacks the drone, and the next thing you know, you got all these, you got a complete veterinary emergency on your doorstep. So a lot of the dentists, the reason I love getting guys like you on is because, you know, these dentists listening to you, they have a really, really hard time managing one office that they're inside of 40 hours a week. So you're out there, you're managing 12 offices. So give us some management tips that you've learned from managing 12 for a decade that this guy's having a hard time. I mean, he's in his own little practice, his own little world. He's been in there 10 years. Number one, let's start with the math. Do you have goals? If you talk to any dentist, they say, here's my problem. You know, 85% of my practice is PPO, so I charge $1,000 for a crown, but I got to adjust off $400 on probably 85% of my crown. So the number one question is, do you take PPOs? And then their second question is labor. I mean, there's guys out there. I mean, anymore, it's like the average dental office you go to, staff labor is 28%. There's dentists out there listening right now who have staff labor at 33. And so talk about, first things first, adjusted production. What percent of these 12 practices are PPOs, and what percent do you have to adjust off your, what percent of your dentistry do you have to adjust off from what you charge to the adjusted production fee set by the PPO?
Yeah, so we are a PPO fee-for-service group. So I would say, uh, rough math, probably 75% of our patients are in network with a PPO. So when you look at, you brought up a lot of good points. Something that's central to us is being able to maximize the amount of savings as being part of a group. So, as you grow larger, different from a traditional one office doctor, we're able to get some savings on the supply side. We're able to get some savings on the lab side by partnering with some amazing local labs, and then on the insurance reimbursement side, we're able to negotiate with insurance companies to tell them, why it is that a Chicagoland Smile Group office has better quality assurance, quality improvement measures compared to a single doctor practice.
So that is a huge advantage. I mean, I've heard people that are out there that work for like Heartland and things like that. I mean, one of their big, huge core competencies is when you have 700 offices, you can negotiate higher fees. Whereas if you have one office in Chicago, like what's the chance one single solo office in Chicago could call the PPO and raise their fee versus you calling them representing 45 dentists in 12 locations?
Yeah, exactly. And that's what, I talk a lot about, like the principle of it takes a team, and we have a, a corporate team, a support center of 25 individuals, and I kind of affectionately refer to them as the dream team. And we delegate a lot of these duties to people that are experts in the field of insurance relationships and talking to insurance companies about why we're better. And from that, to your point, I think for a single doctor office or a two doctor office that's busy taking care of the patient first, and then having to secondarily or tertiarily go and talk to an insurance company about insurance fees and things, that when you take into account accounting and then HR and hiring, continuing education and all of those things, that kind of ends up ranking pretty low on a dentist list of things to do.
So when you're buying these practices, you're going to mostly number one, you can negotiate higher fees for their PPOs.
Yes.
I mean, pretend you were trying to buy me, that you were trying to buy my office and get me to join the team. What would be your key features? Um, you said you have 25 people in headquarters, and I want to explain to the young kids one of the best books ever written back in the day was the E Myth, and the E Myth was what he was saying about his dream team, that you have two types of people. I mean, before McDonald's, everybody that owned a hamburger stand, him and his wife spent all day. The wife was taking the orders and sitting the tables and getting the drinks. The husband's back there making hamburgers and fries, and they worked all day every day just serving their customers. But how McDonald's crushed everyone is they had this dream team of franchise headquarters where they're working all day on the business. And they're sitting there thinking, they're watching the steps. They're like, okay, every time you make a hamburger, you walk all the way back to the freezer to go get 3 pickles. Let's move the pickles closer. And they took that average, before McDonald's, the average length of time in all of America to get a hamburger and fries and a basket and a drink was an hour. And
Yeah.
McDonald's working on the business reduced that to 3 minutes. And so
Exactly
you
right.
you have a dream team, and the problem that dentists have today is they wear too many hats. I mean, it's almost impossible to learn root canals, fillings, crowns, Invisalign, implants, but you can't learn it all, and you understand that. So now you got dental specialties. Every time these dentists say to me, "Well, I'm going to go learn sleep apnea," I said that's fantastic. What are you going to give up? And they're like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to give up everything. I'm like, dude, there are people that have only done sleep apnea for 20 years who still barely understand it. So you're going
Yeah.
to add that, and then you're going to master endo, and then you're going to master oral surgery and master fillings and master. I mean, it's crazy. So you got to
Yeah.
have specialties, and you got to have people working on the business. And the other thing dentists do bad is that today's Friday. So most dentists, they say, well, I only see patients Monday, Thursday, because Friday I'm going to go in and work on the business. And then Friday morning comes in, they're exhausted from the week. They say, screw it. They hit the alarm. They roll over. They sleep until 10 and then go play golf.
Yeah.
So and you have people work on the business. So those people are the ones negotiating higher PPOs. So what type of overhead are you shooting for on these offices? Go through labor, lab, and supplies.
Yeah. So in terms of overall overhead, if we're getting if we're running at a 30% margin, so 70% overhead, I think we're pretty happy.
But that does that include the cost of that? That didn't include the dentist though, and specialist.
It does not. It does not include the dentist. Yeah.
Okay. So you want overhead of 70% before you pay the dentist.
Yes. Well, actually, I guess we might have to. We could start this question over because it does actually include if we're getting. We could maybe we could edit this part, but when we're doing we look at as a group if we're doing 25% overhead, including the dentist salary, and then the other part that we don't include is the cost of the corporate labor. So we don't put that into the individual office.
Okay, go through that. Go through that again. This stickler details. Go through overhead.
Yeah. So overhead, as far as labor costs. To your point, we want to be in the 28% range. Lab costs, we want to be in the 5 to 7% range, and then supply costs, we want to be at 4 to 5%. But we do include we actually do include the dentist wages into that equation.
Now, are all the general dentists paid the same?
I mean, yes, for the most part. Yeah, there's a that they're paid on a percentage of collections minus some component of lab.
So can you tell us what that is?
Yeah, I think with legacy contracts, I can't give you all the details because sometimes somebody that's been in a practice for 30 years or 20 years might have a little bit different percentage. So I don't want to.
Okay, what would your goal? What would your standard goal be, though?
Yeah, the goal is 32 to 33% of collections.
33. Let's just say 33% of collections.
Yep.
And so a lot of
minus 50% of lab. Sorry.
Minus 50% of lab.
Yeah.
And so what I want to tell the kids on that is to the ones that a lot of times we're speaking over their head because we forget how old we are. So you charge $1 for the dentistry, but the PPO only gives you 60 cents. So that's why. So a collection is also known as adjusted production. So
right.
you did $1, but you signed up for Blue Cross Blue Shield PPO. They're only going to give you 60 cents. So and then let's say you did a cash patient. Let's say you did $1 for the dentistry, but you didn't get the treatment plan done. You didn't have the lady up front collect the money, and the $1 went out the door. Well, you were so focused on doing that filling for $1, there was no money collected, so you're not going to be paid.
Yeah.
And so you only pay of collection. So if an insurance company or a patient did not pay, that dentist didn't get 33% of it.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying. And then with the lab fee, I've seen this so many times. When the dentist pays the lab, the associate doesn't give a shit what the lab bill costs. And they're sending him to all these crazy labs, and it's all crazy, and humans can justify anything. Well, I want it done better because this is for my mom or whatever. But the minute the dentist has to pay half the lab bill, and America, on these socialized medical schemes, it's completely insane because if you do dentistry without collecting the copayment, that's fraud. That is absolutely go-to-jail stuff. But that's what Medicare and Medicaid does. So they'll walk in there and they'll say to the grandma, yeah, you need to have your knee replaced and it's $50,000. And it's no out of pocket. So she's like, okay, well, you're the doctor. If right. America instituted a 5% of the deal, or say 10%, okay, it's $50,000. You're going to have to come up with $5,000. What percent of grandmas would say, screw that, I'm just going to take a Motrin and I'm not having this done. And then you say that to most government people, they think you're a socialist Nazi, or like, oh, it feels our people have to have skin in the game. They look at Medicare, Medicaid fraudulent. Well, it's fraudulent because no one looks at the bill. If you had to pay 10% of the bill, you would be in Chicago, and you'd say, well, you know what? I'm going to drive down to this small town where I'm going to go to South Bend, Indiana. It's only, what is that, an hour drive from Chicago?
Yeah.
I'm going to go to South Bend because this doctor's quote me $50,000 for a knee replacement, and I heard in South Bend you can get it done for $35,000. So my copayment would go from $5,000 to $3,500, and it's so obvious how you could save money on these installments. So I love the fact you do that. So
skin in the game is very important. Yeah.
So back to lab 5 to 7. Of those 12 locations, what % of those locations did you decide to do chairside milling or switch from impressions to scanner, or talk about that?
We do digital scanning and milling at 2 of the 12 locations right now, and we have a clinical quality committee that's we're just getting started with right now, but we have 7 dentists with about 175 years of combined experience, and what we're going to do is start to look at technology like CAD/CAM milling and digital impression technology, and say, is this something that should go to all of the offices? Is this a direction that the company wants to go? But we definitely, as a clinical quality committee, we want to be able to have experts, our own experts, sitting around the room and asking the right questions, so that overall we could look at the patient experience and continuously have people that are working in the business, but also want to help improve on the business and say, how do we make the patient experience better and better?
And, what % of those 12 offices have digital x-rays versus film?
100% are all digital and paperless.
And that's my point. There's so many people out there speaking like everyone does CAD/CAM. Everybody should do it. Look at the adoption rate. You have 100% adoption rate of digital dentistry, but in America, for the 150,000 general practitioners, only 15,000 have CAD/CAM. So the adoption rate and digital impression, I don't even think. What % of the dental market do you think is using digital impressions?
I would say 10 to 15% max.
Yeah. So you guys, when you believe, people are making you believe that if you want to be a good dentist, you got to do this. Well, all of your homies have 8 to 12 years of college, and when 90% of your homies don't do it, there's probably some very, very good reasons why they don't do it, starting with it raises your overhead.
Yeah.
Now here's a businessman who happens to be a dentist who has 12 locations, and if he thought chairside milling would drop his total overhead cost 5%, all 12 of those offices would have it tomorrow.
Yeah, and it's something that we're looking at the offices that we have that do CAD/CAM milling and chairside restorations. They do a good job of it, and they live and breathe it every day. They do about 50 a month, and it makes a lot of sense there. But their adoption rate of it is they live and breathe the technology every day. So for us, when we look at us as a bigger organization of 45 dentists and specialists, we want to make sure that there's going to be adoption across the network, and if there's a ton of dilution as it goes from one office to the other, it's us at the end that kind of lost and dropped the ball on it. So that's why we have something like a clinical quality committee that takes technology and what vendors and TV advertisements and things talk about, and we put it into a forum and look at with our own experts and say, how do we incorporate this technology into our company, and is this the route that we want to go for the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, and you always want to follow your passion. Like, I know a dentist named Gigi in San Fran. She loves lab work, and she, not only does she not use a lab, she does removable, and she just wants to do it herself, and she loves it. Yeah, if you love removable, don't let a businessman saying, well, it'd be cheaper to send it to a lab. I mean, that's she likes to put on music and do all that. Well, I don't ever want to make a denture again the rest of my life. You know, the 3 units I made in dental school was more than enough. And my friend Craig Steichen from dental school, we both graduated together. His CEREC machine, I swear to God, he'd marry that thing if he could. I mean, if he could, I mean, he just, all he talks about. So if buying a CEREC machine or waxing up your own dentures is your passion, absolutely do it. But you have to separate, you know, I don't want you doing something because you think you have to for economic reasons when you don't have to for economic reasons. Go through CE. So how do you handle the CE policy? What if you have 45 dentists? What if they all said, well, I want to go to Quace this weekend and it's $3,500 a piece? How do you handle that?
That's a great question. So on the continuing education front, this year we offer about 100 hours of CE across the group. We have partnerships with Dawson Academy as well as Pacific Aesthetic Continuum. So, you know, when we talk about continuing education and speakers, we're really talking about the best of the best. But we're looking at our CE continuum, and we're looking at restructuring it a little bit so that a dentist who's 1 to 2 years out of school, we're really getting them trained up in the bread and butter dentistry, efficient and effective composites, effective like PVS impressions, the case acceptance and chairside manner, endo. We're getting them trained on what sometimes people refer to as it's not the sexiest of stuff, but this is what we see on a day-to-day basis. It's 80% of our day, and single tooth implant restoration. We're getting them trained up on that stuff before they start to look at smile design, equilibration and things like that. It's all part of a harmonious pathway, but we are really putting some framework around tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 continuing education as it applies to Chicagoland Smile Group and our doctors, so that we could get them to be successful in the bread and butter dentistry. And as they continue to grow, we have a CE program that can continue to grow with them and offer more and more in terms of from anything that the Dawson Academy has and Pacific Aesthetic Continuum in terms of smile design and full arch restorations, things like that.
So you know where the best online CE is? I mean, the best CE is the online CE. I'm on Dental Town. We have an endo curriculum that the guy spent $1 million. He's an endodontist. He filmed this stuff over a decade of all these rare cases and all this stuff. And then we put up another one, The Essentials of Endodontic Emergencies. we have like 19-hour online CE. So we take our CE very serious. We have 450 or something like that. The course views are amazing. And you can just, these young dentists with $350,000 student loans, every time they take a course, they get on an airplane and fly across the country and stay in a resort. And you could be laying in your bed. Like if you have an Apple phone, you can plug in Apple TV, throw it on your big screen, and you could watch this in your favorite chair at home, watching them how to place implants and all that stuff. So the Phoenix the online stuff is high quality and low cost. But do you have a budget? Even if you get a discount, the Dawson Academy, Pacific Aesthetic Institute, that's expensive stuff. Do you have a dollar limit per year, or?
So because of some of these partnerships, my own personal goal at Chicagoland Smile Group is to make it where our doctors do not pay anything for continuing education, and so we don't necessarily have a budget for them, but a lot of these partnerships that we've had and cultivated over the course of 10 plus years. Dr. Robin Gay she's the director of clinical education for us, but a lot of these partnerships that she's had for 10 plus years, we have it where the fees for our doctors are reduced because of the partnership level that we have with them. But for our doctors personally, when we onboard doctors, I tell them that I want to be able to offer you 50 plus CEUs and on an annual basis, but at the cost of $0.
What did you mean when you said continuing education and CSG's approach? What's a CSG?
Yeah, a CSG is just our abbreviation for Chicagoland Smile Group.
Oh, okay. Because I'm sitting there thinking, is that cost of goods and services sold?
No, no,
I'm trying to. My accounting brain went off, and I'm like, there is not an accounting term called CSG, but I thought it was cost of sales. But Chicago
just our
Smile
abbreviation.
Group. Okay.
Yeah, Chicagoland Smile Group.
Since how old are you?
I'm 36.
Okay, so I'm 54. You're 36. Most people listening to you right now are all under 30. So this is a millennial thing. Probably 20% are juniors and seniors in dental school, and they're kind of getting afraid. It's kind of like they know they're going to get kicked out of home in 2 years, and they're going to have to get a real job and work for a living. So what advice would you give? I mean, this is June 30th. We're coming up on so this month, 6,000 young baby dentists just walked out of school. They're 25. They're bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. They think they learned everything, and they don't realize they just left dental kindergarten, and it just started. There's going to be a very rude awakening for them really quick. But what advice, if you were given the commencement speech, what advice would you give them? And are you looking to hire? If some of these kids are in Chicago, do you have any jobs open for them?
Yeah, so this is a great question. I was
and do you hire kids out of school, or are you one of those older dentists that say, no, you need 5 years experience?
No, so I'll answer all of the questions. So
see, what I do is I'm such a horrible interviewer. I throw out 20 questions, just praying that one of them's good and sticks.
No, I think they're all good. First off, in terms of dentists graduating from school and 6,000 dentists that are required, graduating last month or this month, I help out. I'm on the UIC College of Dentistry's alumni board, and I was at the College of Dentistry yesterday. And these are some of the things that we were talking about. My advice to general dentists and young graduating dentists is learn as much clinical dentistry as you can. I mean, CE. We talk about Dental Town's online CE program. Take advantage of those things and just become an expert in what your hands and your mind have been trained to do over the last 4 years. I don't think there's any more valuable education and continuing education than that. Be the best of the best. Malcolm Gladwell talks about in his Outliers book, the rule of 10,000. You 10,000 hours. I want to get to 10,000 hours to be an expert in dentistry. Get to that and be the best that you can be in terms of clinical skill. In terms of hiring, we have a great customized, I call it a customized clinical prescription program, but a customized onboarding program. So we do look to hire young graduates sometimes, and we have a custom clinical prescription onboarding program where I'm working with them chairside and getting them up to speed on all things clinical and looking ahead and saying, 6 months or 12 months down the road, what does success look like to you clinically? What things do you want to be able to get more and more proficient at? But I think, we are always looking to hire at Chicagoland Smile Group, and we're always looking for the best of the best and being able to train them so that 5 years from now we could say that these are our guys. We train these guys, and these guys and gals are with us for the last 5+ years.
Now, are you the only owner of the whole group?
I am. I'm backed by a private equity fund here in Chicago, so I do have some investors as well.
So do they do other DSOs?
They don't have any other DSOs right now, but they're shore capital partners, and they're only involved in multi-site healthcare on the microcap side. So everything that they do is healthcare, whether it's concierge medicine, veterinarian medicine, urgent care. But they're always looking for other DSOs and high quality dental groups to partner with. So
why? So back to CE. A lot of these kids are 25. They coming out and saying, they believe all these things, and our job as leaders is try to evaluate their thoughts. A lot of them think, well, I have to learn how to place implants. or I have to learn Invisalign, or I have to learn sleep apnea, or I have to learn CAD/CAM chairside milling. What would you say to those four thoughts as they're walking out of school? Because some of them are scared that they didn't learn any of that in dental school.
In January I gave a lecture at University of Michigan's dental school, and what I put together a roadmap of you graduate dental school, and what do the first 5 years of dental school look like? And in my clinical roadmap for them, I put learning dental implants or learning a new skill, sleep apnea, CAD/CAM restoration, whatever it was. I put that in year 4 or 5 of post graduation learning curve, because you don't know what you don't know. When you get out into the private practice world, it's a very different world than it was in dental school. I remember that quite well, and everybody, a lot of our listeners probably remember that all too well. And it's getting your 10,000 hours in before you're looking to expand that to something else.
That's what the coaches all say in college football. They say, you want to make the pros? There's 4 things you got to do: perfect a block, a tackle, a pass, and a reception. Don't worry about all the other noise. You got to nail that. If you're going to go in the NFL, you got to perfect those 4 basic things. And when they come out of school, they need to do a filling, a crown, a root canal, and to start learning all this other stuff without nailing the basics. So, go ahead.
And no, I was going to say, with our continuing education program, we look at bread and butter dentistry, like our tier 1 of our continuing education programs. And it's not, I think sometimes, especially you get to read a lot and view a lot in dental school of what everybody in the outside world is doing. And you want our human nature is to look at the higher class, sexier things and say, I want to learn how to do an all-on-4 restoration. I want to learn how to place implants. But you have to be able to crawl before you can walk, and walk before you can run. And some of the stuff that we're talking about, whether it's composite restorations or simple crown and bridge dentistry, it doesn't seem sexy, but it's the foundation for so much other stuff.
And there's only one thing I want to caution you about. This is Dentistry Uncensored, and I've been pissing people off for 30 years because I piss people off because in my walnut brain, if I really love and adore and respect you, I'm going to tell you exactly what I think, and I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. I'm not going to hide stuff from you. But there's another thread on Dental Town, and you see it all the time. And this one's called, what is it called? Another death. An 18-year-old kid goes in to have his wisdom teeth. The doctor does sedation, and he dies on it. And I want to tell you something, that when you think you're going to go learn IV sedation, my God, you're playing with someone's life. And I know several dentists who, in their course, accidentally, the person did not wake up, and it ruins their life. They cry, they're sad, they're depressed. And when you go sit on that witness stand and you think you're a doctor and all that, they're going to bring a board-certified anesthesiologist to that trial, and guess what he's going to make you look like? The person who has a dead patient. And so that is the one. So I want to go into that, especially because you got a lot of liability. If you got 12 locations and the lawyer is saying, oh, this guy's they're going to go after the big dog. No one sues the little old lady who knocks you down at the grocery store when her wheelchair runs over your foot. But as you get more and more money, you're a bigger target. And I mean, how often do you hear of a death in dentistry on Facebook and the newspapers? I mean, it seems like we can't even go 3 months without someone dying in a dental office, and they all have one thing in common: IV sedation. So do you let general dentists do IV sedation in your 12 offices?
We don't. We do. If we do, we have 2 oral surgeons, the 2 board certified oral surgeons that do IV sedation. Other than that, we look at specialty at Chicagoland Smile Group to complement the general dental practice. But again, when you're part of a larger, to your point, when you're part of a larger group, the processes and procedures that we have in place is different than what a single practitioner can get to do and be more cavalier and want to do all of these, sexy things like IV sedation. For us at Chicagoland Smile Group, we really focus on bread and butter comprehensive care dentistry, and we leave a lot of that level of specialty care practice to a board certified specialist.
Yeah, and that is the only thing. The other thing, like, if do you have any children?
I don't. I have a fiance but no kids
you
yet.
You are so smart. Oh my God, no contracts yet. But when your wife goes into delivery, and it could be 3 o'clock in the morning when the OBG walks in, he's not going to do an epidural. He's not going to do that. He just pulls out his pager and pages an anesthesiology service, and some guy shows up in like 5 minutes. And every time this happened with my boy, I said, so were you like in the cafeteria? He goes, no, I just sit at the Waffle House, I read, I'm at a coffee shop, whatever. So in a place like Chicago, you have so many anesthesiologists on call. Why would a dentist in Chicago go try to learn something as dangerous as IV sedation? I just do not like it. And like I say, it's always all over the media. Do a Google search, just type in died in dental office, and see how many search hits you get. It's crazy. So what specialties do you rotate? And is it and do they rotate through all 12? Because there's 9 specialties. How many of the 9 specialties do you have rotating through Chicagoland Smile Group?
Yeah, so as far as the rotation goes, with specialists, we have a periodontist, we have a few oral surgeons, we have a pediatric dentist. We have a board-certified prosthodontist. We have a few endodontists, and we do have some specialties that go to every office. But depending on the office, sometimes we have multiple specialties within one practice as well.
Oh, like the larger ones have full time.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
So basically, periodontist, pediatric dentist, prosthodontist, endodontist.
An oral surgeon.
An oral surgeon. So I didn't hear orthodontist.
We do have 2. I left that out accidentally. We do have 3 actually great orthodontists that rotate through some of our offices.
So the orthodontists, they just rotate through some, not all 12. Which ones rotate through all 12?
Nobody rotates through all 12. We like to.
No, I'm not talking about an individual person. I'm talking about an individual specialty. Like, which of your 12? How many of your 12 locations do any of these specialties show up in all 12?
It would be perio would be the one.
Perio, that'd be the only one.
Yeah.
Huh. And then pediatric dentistry, God love those people. Isn't that amazing? Seriously, if you were told tomorrow you had to be a full-time pediatric dentist and only do chrome steel crowns on crying kids, what? I'm looking at your Chicagoland Smile Group. I'm thinking, would you climb to the top of the Sears Tower and jump, or would you just, what would you do?
We're very blessed to have a great pediatric dentist that has been doing it for decades, and Dr. Moore, and we, bless him for keeping doing what he does. They don't call that the
Sears Tower anymore, do they? What do they call it now?
They call it the Willis Tower, but I, born and raised in Chicago, I forever call it the Sears Tower.
And it's a great, great, great icon of what went wrong. I mean, it's their number one mistake is what went wrong. So their best idea was to spend $1 billion of overhead to build this monster building, while Walmart started in Bentonville, Arkansas, and Sam Walton's desk was 2 what do they call those, the carbon horse, and a door laying over it.
Yeah.
And when that guy was worth $50 billion, his desk was still a door sitting on 2 wooden benches, and he had a picture of that Sears Tower. And his was all about keep one eye on the customer and one eye on cost. And once you take one eye off the customer and one eye on cost, your customers can't afford what you sell. And those guys went and built this $1 billion phallic symbol in downtown Chicago, and the low-cost provider Walmart crushed them. And the reason I bring up this point is because a lot of dentists, they believe in unicorns and fairy tales, that the PPOs are going to go away and it's going to go back to the way it was in the 50s, where you just send Delta your fees and they're just going to pay it. And those days are truly gone, aren't they?
I think that, in our research kind of shows at least 80% of Americans have some form of PPO dental insurance, and I
Well,
don't.
it's 95%. 95% take Delta's PPO. Delta
That's
Premier. That they, I mean, by definition, a PPO is they're telling you the fee. You're not sending in your fee, and I'm paying a percent. So 95% of the dentists take Delta, correct?
yeah, yeah. That's
So,
and so yeah. I think that.
but what was your research? Continue with the
No,
research.
no. I was saying I think 80% of patients have some form of dental insurance, PPO dental insurance, and so for us, I mean, we see that as the norm. And to your point about the unicorn in going back to fee for service dentistry, I think for us at Chicagoland Smile Group, we look at how do we look at the PPO market as the norm and still provide a high quality patient care in terms of quality of patient care and patient experience, so that they keep coming back and they bring their families and they refer a lot of their family and friends to us. That's kind of what our mantra is around here at the Chicagoland Smile Group Dream Team office.
So why do you think you have a periodontist, a periodontist specialist that goes into all 12 offices? Why do you think it was that as opposed to pediatric dentistry or endodontics or oral surgery?
I Perio was the first one because dental implants,
Oh,
standard of care.
the periodontist is placing your implants.
Yes, and so
Okay.
and it was kind of the lowest capex cost to bring in a specialist. When we brought, we have an endodontist that goes to about 5 or 6 locations, and when we look at standard of care for an endodontist, we're talking about a microscope, and we're talking about a bigger investment, which we want to make because that we believe that for an endodontist, that is the standard of care.
Yeah, and that's exactly the young kids. Magnification is everything. I mean, you want to be a better dentist? Well, instead of using your naked eyes, put on loops. The biggest error in loops is this dentist is working with loops, and then he leaves, and the assistant makes a temporary or does something. She's not wearing loops. I say anybody that has their hands in their mouth, the hygienist will clean teeth better and not miss as much calculus and tartar if she's wearing loops. And like the endodontist, they want a microscope. The only advantage I see of those scanning the impressions, which has got me interested, is the fact that when you take a scan, you can see the impression 40x. And so that's the only thing that's caught my interest. But my walnut brain, if I can buy 3M's Impergum for $17 impression, and then they say, well, hey, we'll buy our $17,000 scanner. I'm like, dude, that's a lot of impressions. And it's not just buying the scanner, $17,000, I eat the investment, I'm done. I got to sign a contract where they're still going to ding me for a couple $100 a month in perpetuity. And I look at that in perpetuity, and I could still do all my Impergum impressions with just that amount of money.
Yeah, and there's also, there's like you can't calculate the ramp time and the adoption rate, but we look at those numbers too. Is how much time do you have to spend out of a patient's mouth or without being able to help a patient to learn the technology, and how likely is your office going to adapt that technology? I don't know the answers to some of those questions, and because of that, that's why we rely on something like our clinical quality committee to kind of sit down and have very smart people sitting at the table discussing what we should do in dentistry and what's new and great and how does it apply to a bigger group.
And the reason that you hear so much noise on it is going back to passion. Some dentists just think doing their own lab work is cool. Some dentists just think technology in and of itself is just cool. I mean, they're just enamored by technology. So, but don't let their passion for all things technology cloud your business advice. So then the next most logical question is marketing advertising. How do you feed that beast? I mean, you got to feed Godzilla. Most people just got to feed a Doberman. You got to feed Godzilla. How does your marketing feed 12 offices?
So we have a dedicated marketing resource. Molly is our director of marketing and patient experience, and she's absolutely amazing. The programs that we put together for offices. Some programs like online scheduling or email confirmation and text communication. That's a platform program that we do at every office. But depending on the office, because they're locally branded and they have their own local flavors, we're able to take marketing programs and be able to customize them per office, so that we look at their community and say, what does make our Romeoville practice most successful, and what does make our downtown Manus Northwestern office most successful. And Molly is very good at those nuances. But to your point, to feed the patient volume of a Godzilla versus a one office dental group, it does take a dedicated and a very quality resource like Molly.
So how do you work on the obvious dilemma where, and what's more important, getting them in the front door or not losing me at the back door? I mean, it's very obvious that you build a website and 10 people land on it and maybe 3 convert to call it, and then the receptionist only converts 1 of those 3 to come in the office. So if you look at the average dentist doing $675,000 a year and netting $145,000 a year, to do that one filling, the treatment plan case acceptance is only 1/3. So he has to get 3 people to come in that each have a cavity in order to do this one filling, which is $675,000 a year. So to get 3 people in, well, his conversion rate from call to come in is 3 to 1. So he's got to get 9 people to call. So now his website has to get 90 people to land on his website, because your website's so bad because it doesn't have a video. Like you. You have an amazing personality. Look at that smile. But you can't see that and feel that on a mugshot. It's got to be a YouTube video. And these websites, it's a static picture. So 90 people have to land on their site for 9 people to convert to call. So 3 people come in each with a cavity to do 1 cavity. So what percent of Molly's time is on that versus the back door where the hygienist saw 8 people today, but she only scheduled 6 for a 6-month cleaning, so you just lost 25% out of the gate. And then when the 6 it's time to come in, 1 has to reschedule, and everyone loses that, and you just keep losing because you don't do things like when you do a root canal. Another way to save them, not just hygiene recall, but you have to tell the patient, I have to take a 1-year PA of this to make sure it healed. See that radiolucency around there? Okay, I did the root canal, you're out of pain because you don't have a nerve. But I don't know if this worked until the bone fills in, so I'm going to schedule you 1 year from today to make sure you don't have bone loss. There's another recall that happened. Another one is implant. Hell, at 60 months, 20% of implants have peri-implantitis. And you can sit there and say, look, I put in this implant, here's your warranty, but I have to take an x-ray at 1 year to make sure you did not get periodontal disease around that. By the way, the reason we pulled that tooth, you had periodontal disease. So they don't focus on the back door to the point that for the average dentist in the United States, by the time they get to 5,000 charts, and that's your 10-year deal, only 4,000 of them don't have an appointment, which is the only definition of an active appointment. If you're a young kid and you're trying to buy old man McGregor's practice, he says, yeah, I got 5,000 patients. No, he has 5,000 charts. If they're not scheduled for something, they're gone. And by the time the average dentist gets to 5,000, 4,000 have never been in one time in 24 months, aren't scheduled for anything. So my question to you, succinctly, I read between the lines, you said Molly is in charge of marketing, new patient experience. New patient experience, that's keeping your patients. I look at the Fortune 500, like Chicago is headquarters of Chase, and my idol runs Chase. What's his name?
Jamie Dimon.
Jamie Dimon, who I've had dinner with 3 times. Whenever he comes to town, my branch manager at Chase is in the same parking lot as my dental office for 30 years, and she knows I read his boss's book. His mentor was Sandy Weil, who started Citigroup, and then Jamie Dimon was number 2 in command until the rumor has it asked his daughter out, and then that was the end of that relationship. So he went to Chase, but you look at big guys like Jamie Dimon, they're not trying to do new patients. They're doing loyalty programs. Airlines, American Airlines, loyalty. They spend all their money keeping patients for life, where dentists are still back in the last generation where they're trying to get a new customer in the door. And the silliest thing you keep seeing is you'll go to a town of 5,000 out in the middle of nowhere, Oklahoma. This dentist has been practicing from 25 to 65. You say, hey, buddy, what do you need? What do you need? What do you want to learn today? I want to learn how to get new patients. Buddy, you've treated everyone in the town twice. How would you need a new patient in a town of 5,000 after 4 decades? So my question to you is Molly more concerned on blowing open the front door or closing the back door, or how does she balance loyalty program, back door, marketing, front door?
Yeah. So, the cost of acquisition of a new patient, of somebody who doesn't know your address, doesn't know your location, hasn't been there, hasn't met, Nikki at the front desk or the cost of acquisition of that patient is very high. The cost of retention of a patient is significantly lower. I would say that
Shark Tank and Mark Cuban said to you, what is your acquisition cost of a new patient? What would you tell him?
I would say our patient acquisition cost is roughly about $100 a patient.
Okay, 100 a head. That's low. That's good.
And so, but the cost of, to your point, the cost of acquiring a new patient and getting them then in for a hygiene appointment, and if we didn't wow them and we didn't give them a great patient experience, if they never come back, we actually lost money on that patient. And so for on the back end of being able to keep patients in the practice, we do look at a KPI that came to mind when you were talking is we measure reappointment rate. And we want to know when a patient comes into our practice and leaves, what percentage of the time do they schedule? Do they have their next appointment scheduled?
Okay, and the kids don't know what a KPI is.
So key performance indicator. And so for us, reappointment rate, if you ask a typical general dentist, they say, yeah, 100% of my patients come back. They always come back. They always make an appointment. Judy at the front desk always makes sure they make a first appointment. And we say, okay, well, here's our measure. And we're not, in my perfect world mind, I want to shoot for 100%, but sometimes people don't have their work schedules in this. So we're shooting for 85 to 90%.
Think about this. Think about this, guys. He's got 25 people on a dream team that only work on the business, and his goal is an 85%. What do you think yours is? I know in your walnut brain you've never had a root canal fail. Never mind, there's 4,000 endodontists in the United States who spend 80% of their time retreating failed root canals, and I've never met a dentist who ever had a root canal failed. So I guess endodontists only treat immigrants from other countries that had root canals done before they landed. 10% of your root canals, according to insurance, are extracted in 60 months. Number one cause, you didn't even put the final crown on. If they can't afford a root canal and a crown, don't do it. Use the $1,000 they have to pull that tooth and do 3 other cavities. Don't be doing, the endodontists have a 5% of their teeth are extracted after 5 years. Why? Because they were too aggressive. It was a fractured tooth. But if they're shooting for 85% reappointment, what do you think the average homie listening to this thing has right now?
Oh, I would say it's between 65 and 70%.
I would say it's under 40.
That you're the uncensored. I'm just the interviewee.
You're the nice guy. Yeah. So, but you're giving him something. So how would he listening to you? How could he go to work? Half of them are on Dentrix and EagleSoft, and they think that's good software, just like they think none of their root canals failed. Man, you know nothing when you think Dentrix and EagleSoft are great to run your business. But how would they get on Dentrix or EagleSoft to figure out their reappointment rate?
It's a tough. We as a company at Chicagoland Smile Group, we run Dentrix Enterprise, and we actually end up working with third-party data sourcing to extract the data, and we run our own statistics and numbers because a lot of these practice management softwares they're not sensitive to data and information because for decades, I mean, it's not valuable. Dentists don't need that. They only want to know how many crowns they did, how many root canals they did. They want to know how many implants they placed. That's all they need to know according to some of these, bigger
Yeah,
retailers.
you
But
are a
we're
sweetheart. I do. I absolutely love you. I mean, you just referred to Dentrix as and Eaglesoft as not sensitive to data and information. That's the nicest way of saying that Dentrix and Eaglesoft should rename themselves. One should be Stevie Wonder and one should be Ray Charles. Because if you're trying to run your business off those two, to call them management information, I'm never going to shut up about it until they fix it. You know,
and
a lot of people say to me, "God, go easy on them, go easy on them." It's like, how can I go easy on them when these dentists don't know what it costs for them to do a filling? I mean, they just were in the room for an hour and did 2 fillings. They have no idea what that cost, and they've signed up for 12 different PPO plans. So their prices they have 12 different prices of selling something they don't know what cost. And then they think the problem is if most dentists went to Chicago, they wouldn't be smart enough to visit you. They go over to Bisco and find out what's a 18th generation bonding agent.
Yeah, I know.
That would be the answer to all their prayers.
Business intelligence and data. We talk a lot about in our company about if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. And so for us, we want to be able to measure some of things like reappointment percentage and clinical outcomes. We want to be able to measure those things so that we could look at our dentists and hygienists and help them be better. And it's our CFO Andy works essentially day and night to be able to get these numbers and data together, but it's something that we do on our own.
Yeah, and you have to, and I want to go back to the passion deal. Corporate dentistry versus owning your own practice. I'm telling you that if you don't have the passion for business intelligence and data, you should focus on the dentistry, because if you just want to do the dentistry, because I know you talk a lot about balancing work and life. If you want to have balanced work and life and work 9 to 5, you need to be in corporate, because 9 to 5 is, if you own the business, 9 to 5 means 95 hours a week. That's 13 and a half hours a day, 7 days a week. It is a lifestyle that never goes away. So if 9 to 5 means Monday through Thursday, you need to be in corporate. If 9 to 5 means 95 hours a week, you need to be an owner. And if you're a 9 to 5er, I'm sure Dentrix is wonderful. But if you're a 95-hour weeker, that is horrific business intelligence and data. And that's why it seems like I'm surprised you are you thinking about switching to open dental? It seems like everybody that's really into business sensitive and data is switching to open dental because it's open, and then you can actually hire a programmer to sit next to your bookkeeper and just add on programming. It's open. I mean, basically, once you sign up with Open Dental, you can program to your own code.
We're I think because of the back end structure we have with being able to manipulate our own data, I think we're for the time being we're happy with Dentrix Enterprise. Not to say that I wouldn't love a custom practice management system, but it's a work in progress. Good to great.
I switched to open, and anybody that is listening to this is really into business intelligence and data. We might, and the guy, the owner, Jordan Sparks at Dennis, he's kind of not involved anymore, but his brother Nathan is very open-minded and all that stuff. We might get a group of people that are really into business intelligence and data to kind of lay out a framework, and we could use my office as a prototype. I've called my office Today's Dental #1 prototype since 1987. I stole that from the Epcot Center. Remember Epcot was experimental prototype, community of the future, or what is this ever? Experimental prototype, EP, was it
COT?
Community of Tomorrow.
Yeah.
Experimental prototype, community of tomorrow. So I called my when I started Today's Dental, I called it Today's Dental prototype #1. And so 30 years later, we're still just altering it and thinking it. And that's the way business is, because remember, of the S&P 500 listed in 1950, by 2015, 88% of those companies were gone. So there was only a 12% survival rate in 65 years. So I'm telling you, business is constantly moving, and it's a lifestyle. So if you have a passion for chairside billing, do it. If you have a passion for laser, do it. If you just really want to place implants and bone graft, do it. But if you're going to open up your own office, you better be passionate about business.
Yes. Yeah, 100%. And I, on the open dental, if you guys are going to get a group together to look at something like that, definitely put me in the mix. I'd love to be a part of that discussion.
Well, I think I'm going to do that. So I think what I'm going to do is, if you're listening out there, what I'm going to do is maybe we'll have a what is it called? What's it called when you brainstorming? What are those groups called?
Round table,
round table,
consortium.
think tank, kind of a business intelligence think tank where you can get people wet gloved. I like the wet gloved for clinical, and I like the dry hands for business, and where you could get some of the smartest dry hands in dentistry that walk the talk. Because now we can work in an open system where you could say, what do we need to know? Because on just little things like dentists, they believe in fairy tales because they don't have any data. But when you give them data like trigonometry, geometry, calculus, they get A's. Applied math is physics, they got A's. Applied physics is chemistry, they got A's. Applied chemistry is biology, they got A's. The problem in their business is they have no idea the data. Like I'll say to dentists, is your website good? Oh, it's awesome. Really? Well, how many hits does it get a month, and how many of those convert to a phone call? No idea. So that guy's smart. He's smart as hell. He got A's in physics. If he sit there and said, well, the Chicagoland Smile Group, every time they get 10 hits, one person calls. Your office gets 98 hits for a call. Then he knows, okay, I get it. Now he starts studying it. What was the difference? And then the receptionist, I'll say, what do you think about your receptionist? She's awesome. Yeah, because she's nice and smiles and cracks up jokes and laughs at all your stupid jokes. Right. But you don't know what her conversion rate. Your favorite little girl over there, 4 people have to call her before she converts one into the chair. And then you present the treatment because you're the doctor, and you only have a 38% conversion rate. And when I pull you out of it and I put in a treatment plan coordinator, she goes to a 65% close rate. So she's twice as good a dentist as you, because if you were a fireman, you're only going to 1 out of every 3 houses on fire. So I don't care about your bonding agent. I'd rather you just removed all the decay and packed them with butter than sit there and just remove the decay on 1 out of 3 and put whatever Bisco restorative bonding agent you want. And then the back door, if someone is amazing as you, because you are amazing, if your goal is an 85% reappointment rate, well, I'm telling you, just the dentists in Illinois, they're probably at about a third. They're probably 35 to 40%. I mean, I've been in this business for 30 years. I had my MBA in 98. They don't know their numbers, but they're smart. My homies are smart. They're doctors. Yeah. You show them the numbers, they'll get an A. And my goal is that with open dental, that we can work with the open dental. We can bring in our programmers. We can use theirs, whatever. Because if my homies actually had a dashboard that worked, and another thing they have to do, which Nathan agrees with me, is that when you go to Ritz-Carlton, who has the greatest service in the world, they only have like 9 things on their computer to check you in. You open up Dentrix, you hire some new girl and put her in, she opens up that screen, there's 84 million things you can do, and then they'll tell you on the report generator that 80% of it's not used ever. Well, if it's not used, it's clutter, it's noise, and now she forgot to do an incredible stack. So the most important thing we got to do with open dental is to be able to close out all the things we don't use. I mean, could you imagine taking in your car back to Hertz Rent-A-Car at the Chicago airport, and the guy opened up Dentrix to check in your car?
I would never make a flight.
Yeah, so you need to, if your business has decided we do not use this, it needs to go off the screen so that you get a template. If you want to close that back door, I can't check you out until I've done one of these 5 things, including scheduling your reappointment rate. And for the staff meeting to start, we have to know how many patients did we have yesterday than we started today. Did we have 1,012? How come today we only have 1,011? Who's not scheduled for something? And it's not rocket science. Everything we're talking about, McDonald's was doing in the 50s.
Yeah.
You know,
and
my
exactly
old man, my old man, I'll tell you what, I grew up, he had 9 Sonic drive-ins. And I'm telling you what's so funny is the cash register back then was National Cash Register. And it was eventually bought by IBM. But my old man had more business data to run a Sonic drive-in off a cash register than his son, the doctor, did 40 years later.
Yeah.
How sad is that? I mean, the cash register, the employees clocked in, they clocked out. It had a little roll of paper, and when you ended out the day, this big old long tape came out, and you'd know that, you'd know all kinds of little things, like how come you sold 118 medium drinks, but you used 119 cups. Just all this stuff. So that's my goal and passion. I want to help these kids run a business. I want them to. All I want dentists to do is be happier and healthier. That's all I want to do. Be happy, healthy, be passionate, have fun. You only live once and you die, and it's this source of massive stress is easily fixable.
Right. And for us, Chicagoland Smile Group, for our dentists, our goal is for them to be able to focus. You made this point a little bit earlier, and I thought it was wonderful. I want them to be able to focus on what they're passionate about, which is most of the time it's their high quality of dental and or specialty training, and taking, for us, we want our on the business dream team people to be able to take off all of the back end functions so that they don't have to worry about those things, and they could just focus on patient care, high quality patient care, patient experience, and that's one of our passions here at Chicagoland Smile Group, is to be able to do that on a day in, day out basis.
Well, I'm your biggest fan. I called you, you didn't call me. I'm so honored today that on a Friday before 4th of July, you decided to come on my show and talk to all my homies, and they really appreciated having someone come on that's running 12 offices with a couple hundred employees, because they're stressed out as one dentist with 5 employees. And I really want to thank you so much for taking your time to come on the show today.
No problem. Really appreciate it. Always happy to help and better the profession of dentistry.
And we'll get on that think tank. We'll get on that think tank.
I'm gonna hold you to it, because business intelligence is something we need.
Yeah, that's what we'll do it. You're on.